Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. I quit because of my boss because he only fed promises, did nothing for the employees, and did not even want to listen. The second story. My boss steals money from me. The third story. Framed this disgusting team and boss at a very busy time. The first story is, I get to quit a toxic workplace of 2 years. A little background. I'm a husband, father, artist, and professionally I'm a software engineer. And I'm aware that living with abuse for 2 years is ultimately my choice for not leaving. But let me give the backstory and you can see why I felt trapped. I started my career at a company that I was with for 7 years. In 2015, I was abruptly fired. My performance had dropped. But I had communicated to everyone, including HR, that I was very depressed and working through it with my doctors. This compounded many issues. 1. I no longer had insurance. 2. No insurance means no meds. 3. No meds means no mitigation for anxiety, depression, and worst of all, my severe ADHD. This sent me into a depressive cycle that I'm still feeling reverberations from to this day. Spent 7 months trying to find a job. I don't have any traditional schooling. And as a software engineer with only one professional reference in the field on your resume, it's very hard to even get interviews. Once I had a job, it was located 50 miles from my home, and the position required that I work 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. without exception. Factoring traffic and dropping children off at school, I left my house at 7:50 a.m. and wouldn't get home until 7 p.m. on good days, and as late as at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. on some days. My depression didn't improve, but I was medicated for my ADHD, which helped me maintain this job for nearly 2 years. I ended up having a very dark moment that nearly robbed me of the rest of my life, and expressing this to my employer prompted a scripted process they required themselves to take, which included 4 weeks unpaid leave to seek psychiatric help, and then review and plan limited work once signed to go back to work, or I could take a 3-month severance. I took the severance and found out my wife was pregnant with our 3rd child, first together. I found a job for a month or 2, then COVID hit. Position got dissolved and I was again searching. In comes my current job. It's a startup in the insurance tech field. I was hired as the 13th employee and the senior-most engineer at that point. I took ownership. I took my duty very seriously. I had colleagues who were here on visa, and if we failed, they would likely have to go home, which is heart-crushing for them, as they've worked for this opportunity their whole life. I took on 2 leadership roles on top of my engineering position, and worked uppers of 60 to 70 hours a week for 16 months straight. Multiple times I was told by my boss, the CTO, that if this work doesn't get done, I'm not sure we'll have paychecks, which prompted not only me to work from 9 a.m. to 2 to 3 a.m. multiple times, but ask it of my team, my colleagues, my friends. My life became work because if it didn't, I wouldn't be able to feed my family. All of this during the first year and a half of my newborn daughter's life. Last September, the company experienced a hostile takeover from one of the investors. Wednesday evening, I had one CEO. Thursday, I had another. They gave little explanation initially, then slowly fed us morsels, until their hand was forced, because they had to inform investors, of which all employees were based on contracts when we were hired. To sum up, the old CEO was committing fraud, and the old company had to become the straw man that we burn and bail on because it's criminal history. Our stock options were diluted at a ratio of 1 to 1 million, not exaggerating. What was worth $10,000 is now worth 1 cent. As you can imagine, this causes 30% of our R&D to leave. They haven't backfilled any positions. I was hired to the newly founded company in February with the promise that they were doing market research so that our salaries could reflect businesses around us. And my salary didn't change, even a penny, and my insurance is more expensive. Better for sure, so I essentially got a pay cut. I asked my boss for a meeting to discuss my salary about a month and a half ago, and nothing came of it but a platitude. Yeah, we'll talk. 3 weeks ago, I got on a call with my boss and 4 others in my position to discuss a roadblock we had run up against. As I'm explaining the situation from my perspective, my boss tells 2 of the others to leave the call, leaving me, my close colleague, and my boss. He started to criticize my perspective, and as I defended it, this is typical for my career. He interrupted me with some pepper, with some tertiary, but largely unrelated criticism. I hand-waved it saying we could talk about that later, and tried to continue on topic. At this point, he lost it. He started yelling, bringing up critiques that were completely new to me. I sat silently. He continued to become increasingly angry, and slowly he started to scream. The kind of scream when your voice gets higher pitched and you can hear spit on each syllable. During this 5 minutes of belittling and berating, he said, "Find a new job. I'm sick of your SH," along with a number of questionable statements at my expense. I took a deep breath and shakily said, "I don't know what to say." He replied, "Neither do I," so I hung up. The next day when I sat down to work in my home office, my heart rate skyrocketed to 140, and I started to sweat and breathe heavy. Many of you will recognize this as the beginnings of an anxiety attack, so I requested a sick day. I can do that, and he immediately texted me asking if I was using sick time to avoid conversations, and I replied that my heart rate was through the roof, and I couldn't work for health reasons. Attached a picture on my watch showing my heart rate at 145. The next day I got on a call with him. He was very apologetic, tried to give rationalizations for what he did, and asked me for forgiveness, to which I replied, "I understand where you're coming from." Later he mentioned that he didn't expect me to accept his apology, so the message was sent. I told him I was burned out and I'm done being creative for them. I will become an automaton and follow all of his directives exactly. Little did he know I intended on following the find a new job directive as priority 1. I got the offer call for my new position, and I'll be getting a 30% increase on my salary, and will never have to report to this man ever again. Just wanted to share a victory. The second story is, the managers/owners of my bar stole a $300 tip from me. So I had a private event at the restaurant I work at. It was past my scheduled time to leave, and so the owner ended up telling me to go ahead and go, and the two owners, one who was acting manager, would stay and close them out, but that they would leave me the tips I made for the evening. Since they were both owners and can't take tips from employees or be part of a tip pool, they assured me before I even accepted doing the party, they would be giving me all tips made. Well, I came to work today and found $225 set aside for me. I didn't think much of it until I entered another tip and noticed that not only had they charged an 18% auto gratuity for $235, but the party had also left another $290 tip on top of that, one that was put under my federal identification number and claimed as my tip, a tip that I never got nor was told about. In total, I was tipped $525, of which I ended up giving $225. The IRS would be made to think I made that entire $525 and I would be none the wiser. The two owners apparently split the rest of the $300 between them and didn't tell me, so I locked the doors on a Friday night and walked out. No one steals from me. It's illegal for an employer to take tips that were meant for an employee. Who knows how many other events this happened that I didn't notice. I have screenshots of both tips added under my name. Cash taken out from the till under my name. The owner admitting to taking the tip and splitting it with the owner. She probably didn't. She probably kept it all. And a physical copy of the receipt printout with everything broken down on it. I contacted the third owner, who's the financial guy, Money, and let him know what went down, and he said he would make things right. The owner that took the tip tried to gaslight me into thinking that I wasn't seeing what I was seeing, until I sent her screenshots and then she admitted it. I made it clear to all parties involved that I wanted the other $300 in my last paycheck, and at that point I'd return their keys. The rest of the employees are split between backing me and saying I should have split some of the tips with the owners, since they helped me with the party. That's not how things work, 1, and 2, if that was the deal from the get-go, that would be one thing, but they lied about what was tipped, then tried to claim it under my name so I'd have to pay taxes on it, not them. I'm so utterly sad. I wish I could post the screenshots. You would be as angry as I am seeing some of them, I think. Update. Didn't do good, guys. Third owner called me and we had it out, but basically came to a decision to cut both our losses and he'd pay me. I can't stop going over what was said out of anger, as there were many excuses, and he chose to defend her. Someone also showed him my Facebook post I made calling them out, which was set to friends only, and yes, I know who did it. They tried to say the auto gratuity wasn't the same as a tip, and that I was entitled to the gratuity added to the bill, and not the additional tip added after. I asked then who was entitled to the tip, and they said, well, you couldn't handle a party of 30 alone, could you? And I stated very humbly yes, and I've been doing it for over a year working alone as cook, bartender, simulator caddy, cashier, and more. I think he meant that I wasn't entitled to the auto gratuity but got confused, and I reminded him that since it was implemented at my behest, I fought for it to be there, that we had been treating it as a tip, and taking it out as cash at the end of the night as tips, and counting it on taxes as cash tips. He then said the manager-owner girl wasn't an owner simply because she was a spouse to the other owner, and that because of that she was entitled to tips. I told him because we were pooling tips for the event, that made her ineligible as management cannot be privy to tip pool. He told me not to go to Google for legal advice. So I told him I had been talking to a lawyer. I wanted to see if I was right, or if I had blown the whole thing out of proportion. And the lawyer said I was correct in my thoughts, which I already knew. He got heated after that, and I calmed him down saying I had no intention to sue. This wasn't what this was about. In the end, he said he'd pay me and he did say sorry, but that was after a half an hour of trying to convince me I was wrong, and that manager girl wasn't intentionally trying to steal from me, that she just didn't have enough money in the till. She's a liar, and I got tired of it. I told him I sent him proof and she's lying. Honestly, I just wanted an apology and it made right. Now I feel worse. I found out they've been recording us via camera in all of our conversations. I don't like that. He also knows I talked to a lawyer. It's clear no one involved has any clue what is legal and how you handle tips and gratuity, because he tried to say they were two different things. And the last story is rage quit. About 10-ish years ago, I had this miserable full-time job working at a fast food place flipping burgers. It was a means to an end, really. I was there for 2 horrible months. The staff and leadership were absolutely atrocious. They literally wouldn't allow me a standard 30 minutes to eat lunch, but were fine taking 10-minute smoke breaks 6 to 7 times a day. They would constantly screw up my pay, getting hours wrong, OT wrong, etc. It was to the point that either payroll was completely incompetent, or either it was purposeful. I was treated as a child, talked down to and disregarded at any given opportunity. I could go on, but you all get the point. The straw that broke the camel's back was at the start of one of my shifts. We're on the back getting ready to start the day. Everyone is joking around about some topic in particular. I can't remember what it was exactly. I wanted to contribute to the humor, so I cracked a very low-key joke. I kept it PG because I was the new guy and didn't know my audience yet. Best not to make waves. Well, about 10 minutes later, the store manager comes up to me and reams me hard for the joke. Basically tells me what I said was completely inappropriate, that I should be ashamed, etc. I can confirm my joke was perfectly appropriate. This was intimidation. Not only that, this wasn't a private discussion. She did this within earshot of the rest of the staff. I got my revenge. The store was in range of a bunch of offices and stores. Lunchtime rush was absolutely ridiculous. Hundreds of customers between the drive-thru and walk-ins. It was so heavy that it was the burger guy's job to start cooking patties and stocking them in a warmer as early as 11 a.m. That way we can just smash burgers out without delay. This strategy was integral to being able to get through the lunch rush, so I just pretended to be busy from 11 a.m. to 11:30ish. I'd make burgers individually as they were ordered, but didn't stock up burgers for the rush. I emptied the mustard, ketchup, and mayo squirt containers so that they were maybe less than a third full. I returned a lot of the food packaging back to their original boxes in the back of the store. Only kept the bare necessities I'd need for roughly half an hour. When 11:45 a.m. hit, I just quietly walked into the back, got dressed into my regular clothes. When I was ready, I walked up to the manager with my uniform neatly folded, name tag on top, laid it on front counter near the cash register, and said with a smile, "Bye." I left that brazier station as empty and as unprepared as I could possibly make it. I can't imagine the afternoon they must have had. To this day, it brings me a great sense of peace when I think about it. Ha! I hope you love these stories. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for the support.